Now, all right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. My name is Larry James. My company is Speak with Larry, no spaces. And today we have a guest by the name of Mark Miller. And Mark is the founder of an organization called the UA Legacy Grants. It's a nonprofit organization. And he's also the president of Universal Achievers, promoting financial wellness and ways to create passive income. UA Legacy Grants is a nonprofit corporation designed to assist families in creating financial wellness by helping them to become debt-free and empowered with the ways and ability to create sustainable wealth and abundance in the form of passive income. Did I get that right, Mark?
You're on target. Yes, sir.
All right. So welcome to the show, Mark.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, yes, we have what you read is exactly what we do, and just I don't know how much you want to share, what time frame that you like to stay in. Is there any guidelines?
We're gonna do about 30. We're gonna do about 30 minutes.
That'll work. Okay.
Yeah, about 30 minutes.
Okay. So I actually started with a concept and the idea of what you just read with UA Legacy Grants when I was 16 years of age.
Okay.
And the whole idea and the whole concept then was what could be done to create the maximum amount of money where individuals could have more than enough where they could do good works.
Okay.
And take care of things, not only their family, but do something greater than that. So that's where it started, just with a capsule. Over the years, I would take positions in companies that I would actually start or manage or be the top producer in for the purpose of learning that, where I could prepare myself because I felt like I would need it for what I was called to do when it was the right time. And I said often it's the timing thing. When it's the right time, it will manifest itself. But until then, I just keep laying and overlaying and continuing to build what I know I need to do to be able to prepare for it. Bottom line, all of that came together and began to develop about 2.5 years ago when it was like, okay, this is the time. Okay. So for 2.5 years, I have layer after layer inside of creating this. We started with Universal Achievers, and Universal Achievers is a for-profit company designed to help individuals to do what you exactly described as well, to where they can actually learn financial wellness. They can also be able to get out of debt with the training that they receive. They can also create a very substantial monthly income that grows to the point where it is more than enough, where if they didn't have a job tomorrow, they're still going to be okay. And there's enough now to do good works as well. My goal and my plan and my belief and desire is have 1 million individuals in a period of time that have at least $1,000 more per month than what they need for everything else to be able to do the good works and create another $1 billion per month into good causes. Wow. And it's not the good causes that we want them to put it in, it's the good causes that they want to put it in.
That makes a big difference right there. Outstanding.
Right, so that's Universal Achievers, the for-profit side. Bottom line, we came to a certain point where we said, what we just have created is also just as applicable and more so in a nonprofit organization. And one of the reasons for that, and you likely are very well aware of this, but some are not. If you, for example, were on fixed income, SSI, for something like that, for example, and you got in financial challenges and you needed some help and your brother helped you, you'd have to report that, and it could eventually decrease the amount of SSI you were receiving. Right. That affects the same is true if you receive that from a for-profit company. But with the way a nonprofit company is structured, there's a lot of individuals like that you can help that it would not create a challenge for their income. So with that nonprofit concept, we've decided to create a nonprofit entity called UA Legacy Grants, and that is in place. That was formed just in May, just a couple months ago. But everything is functional and in line, and the website that you looked at is the basis point of that. And we're ready, and we are just now beginning to get the word out. So the timing, Larry, of you and I having this conversation is just right on point with everything in place for us ready to do service for that. And another last thing, and then we'll stop and let you interject as well. We
Go
can
ahead,
have a
go ahead.
conversation.
Mhm.
But another thing that I realized and has become very clear to me in the last very few hours, for example, is a way to work with nonprofits. My nonprofit work with other nonprofits to be able to create revenue for that nonprofit that already is created and put more money into their cause that's already existing in a way that's really special. There's a lot of reasons that came to me, but again, it's a timing thing. But what helped me with that is the fact that I was on the board of directors of a nonprofit ministry for 33 years. So I know a little bit about the way they think.
Right. Wow.
And then now to be able to create something that will service many nonprofit organizations, and in return, actually, while we're building those million with that extra income I just described, we can help millions through what's already existing.
Right. Absolutely. That's outstanding. And all that come from you. You thought about that process to where it actually became what you dreamed about to what is.
Yes, and naturally, I mean, I've had a lot of good input and a lot of different experiences. I pastored churches for a couple churches over a 9-year period. I have 5 children. I have had a lot of businesses and also worked in a lot of different type of entities, and that's given me a broad background. Some call me the numbers guy. Some call me the passive income guy, knowing what passive income is.
Right.
I've also worked in the arena of insurance, for example, and real estate and other things. So in that development, I learned what an algorithm is and how to take different parts and percentages and numbers and create a system that can perpetuate and always continue. So it's not like a flash, it's like a foundation that will grow, and also I will position and have positioned and will position everything where it will be here long after I'm in heaven.
Well, I could see that too when I watched the videos. I could see how that would continue on, you know, and
exactly.
That's what my mindset is. I'm also interested in creating a legacy because,
right.
You know, in my mindset, I want to leave things for my great grandkids to view,
yeah.
and know that I existed and that they can do whatever it is that they're trying to do. Right.
Right.
Kind of.
And the thing, and the way that to do that, Larry, a lot of people don't understand this either. But the way to do that is to start by giving.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, I know that totally. That's why I do things like this, because see, my concept is you don't get and then you give. My concept is you give and then
right.
you give. Because if you give, you don't have to worry about getting, because you've done your part. You're going to get.
That's right. Our whole process with everything we do is giving first on our end.
Right.
And then making it where the person that receives can give on their end and still have abundance. Okay. And it's just like layer after layer in that way. And this doesn't relate, but it does relate with the concept. A lot of times it's kind of like, you know, when you're thinking about one thing, you can compare it to something else. I heard something this week that really kind of showed me something that I hadn't thought of in that way before. But some people say it really takes a lot. It's illogical to have faith. That was what was said.
Okay.
It's illogical to have faith. But then they went on to say, if you really think about it, it's illogical to have doubt. Because if you have ever been in a position where, first of all, as I mentioned to you before we started a conversation in detail, I have a Christian foundation, a Bible foundation.
Right.
And there's been a lot of miracles I've seen in my life that I know by faith that things have happened. So it's illogical for me to have doubt when I've seen things happen in the form of faith.
Gotcha.
So you reverse that thought.
Question, Mark. I've been waiting to get someone with your experience on this platform so that I can ask you this question, because it came to my mind and I hadn't been able to get the confirmation or the satisfaction of any type of answer that I've asked these people. So I'm asking you, think about this as a concept. And you know this as well as I know this. We're not human beings having a spiritual experience. We're spiritual beings having a human experience. Am I correct?
Right. You are correct. Yes.
Okay. So imagine, if you will, you and I are having a conversation just like we're having right now, only in the spirit, right? And
Right.
I say to you, Mark, I just got the notice I'm going to have to go to that human world. And you say,
Right.
Larry, how long you got to be gone? I say, oh, probably about 60 or 70 years. And you say, okay. And I say, you going to be here when I get back? You say, probably. So I'm born then. I'm born into the world as a human being.
Right.
60 or 70 years later, I die. Then I see you again. I say, Mark, hey, I'm back, Mark. And then you say, welcome back. So is that the way things really happen? And we think it's the opposite. We thinking we're human beings, that when we die, that's a bad thing.
Well, that's a real good point. And this is not I'm going to answer you in just a minute.
Okay.
But this is not something that's negative. This is something, one of the most positive things I could say that would be the preface for this.
Okay.
13 years ago today, my youngest son passed away.
Okay.
I know where he is, and I'm anxious to get there, but not in a hurry. I'm here to fulfill my job.
Right.
But there will be such a celebration when that takes place that we cannot explain it.
Right.
We cannot understand it. In other words, when it says we can't understand what's there, because our mind is not large enough as a human to understand it.
Right.
But back to your question, we are started and we are created in the image of God in his likeness. And he says in Psalm 139, we was created that way, and he knew about us when we were in our mother's womb.
Right. Right. Right.
So we are born as a spiritual being in the image of God, but we're born in a world of sin, that we can have a relationship that we create with that author of our body.
Okay.
and our spirit, and we can serve and serve mankind during that time. And it's not like we came in one different form. We just came as an original. Nobody's like us. And every one of us have something to fulfill, and to find that vision and be able to fulfill it when we are released from our human body to our spirit going back to God who gave it, and having a relationship with that one that created us. There's nothing better in the service while we're here, and then when we go, the release of the beauty that we will have and the reward.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So with that being said, why do we look at death as a bad thing as human beings?
Well, you may be surprised the way I answer that. First of all, it's because we don't know what's on the other side.
Okay.
And let me put a PS to that. Before Luke, my son, passed 13 years ago today, I thought I knew a lot about what heaven was like. I read the Bible through and studied things and went through 4 years of theology. But I know less about heaven now than I thought I did before that happened.
Wow.
But here's the other side of what I said, the second part of that. If we knew what was there, would we try to take measures to get there too quick?
Yeah, it depends on what was there. It depends on what was there. I believe that I read this quote the other day that said, if someone sent you an envelope and it had the day that you were going to die, would you want to open it? You know? Yeah, right. I would not want to open it.
No. And just like, with the last 2 years, my son was 21 when he passed. And again, I'm not trying to, this is positive. That's what I'm saying. I'm not talking about this from anything but a positive setting. Okay. When he passed, he was at the height of his spiritual life. Okay. And yes, we miss him. But to think about how awesome it is that he was at the height of his spiritual life, and he had a lot of influence even as a young man. Mm-hmm. But now he's rejoicing and will be there when we get there. So
and you know that him leaving had nothing to do with you. You had no control over that.
No, and the other part I wanted to say about that, if we had known 2 years before that was that day that was going to happen, mm-hmm. we'd have spoiled the life out of him. We let him live a young man's life.
Right. But like I say, I believe that this is what I share with people, and this is just my experience. I believe when you die, you win. You know what I'm saying? Because you're no longer dealing with this. This is a sinful, crazy, insane world we live in. And we try to make some semblance of normalcy out of it based on our intellect. But in reality, man, this is not a good place.
Well, let me give you a score on the percentage of score of what you just said. You just scored 100%.
Thank you. But I'm living it. You know what I'm saying? I'm experiencing, like, I see so much chaos and turmoil that,
right,
you know, in my mind, I think it's going to get worse. You know what I'm saying?
well, it will, and the Bible talks about some of those things, and but it tells us not to live in fear. That's the challenge that a lot of people are doing now. That's 100% opposite of positive. You're not supposed to live in fear. We're here for a purpose, and he says, "Occupy till I come," and that means get with it, stay with it, keep at it until it's time. Because when you do that, you're going to accomplish a lot more.
But when you're in fear, you paralyze. You stay.
That's right.
Yeah, and I believe that's what's going on with this pandemic we're dealing with right now. You know,
right?
Yeah, because there's a lot of people who are totally convinced, without the shadow of a doubt, that, you know, if you get it, you die. But statistics show that the majority of people don't die. You know?
That's true. Another thing I've been studying just the last 3 days is every time where there's a major crisis in the Bible times, there was miracles that happened for those that were serving God.
Okay.
And protected and changed and fed. I mean, there's a lot of examples, but 40 years in the wilderness. And there's one other thing I found out about that this week that I'd never seen in the Bible, even though I read it many times. Two things. One, when it got time for them to leave Egypt and they were concerned about whether the Egyptians would try to stop them or not, they wondered what to do and how to keep it quiet. And the Bible says that it made where the dogs didn't even bark as they were leaving.
Wow.
I'd never seen that before. The other thing that I'd never seen, some said, well, why did God send them in the wilderness instead of just taking them the direct way? Because there was a more direct way. If they'd gone the direct way, there were enemies that would have created war, and they would have panicked and gone back to Egypt and never gone to the promised land. True. So God had to take them the long way to keep them out of the fights.
Right. And I believe that without a doubt right there, because I believe sometimes, you know, like if you in a hurry to get somewhere and you forget something, you have to go back, and you go back that same way, and somebody had a car crash or, you know, some happened. I believe God prevents you from being in that situation too, based on his direction for you, you know.
Right.
Because, you know, I don't believe we leave this earth until we have accomplished what he put us here to do. Nobody. I don't believe that's how it works. I believe when my time comes, I've done everything that the Lord wanted me to do here. Because
you're correct.
I don't believe that I can extend that time or I can shorten that time. Some people believe you can shorten it by committing suicide, but I don't think you can. I think that if you commit suicide, it was your time to die, you know, and that was the way you were supposed to die. But I still believe that the Lord allowed you to do that because he controls everything in my mindset, you know, the way I view things. You know, there's nothing that he can't control. So if he wants you to live longer, you could live longer if that was according to his plan, but I don't believe his plan is for that for anybody.
Yeah, and I would understand the premise. I would disagree with that a little bit in this sense. If someone does commit suicide, and I have had 2 individuals that I knew personally, that there was no reason and no likelihood they'd ever do that, but they had physical and emotional challenges that created that. So that's what took place. But for some, in other words, there were some in the Bible that did shorten their time because of the things they did or did not do. But if you're serving Christ, for example, that is less likely to happen, and God will keep you, and you will stay focused and accomplish that. But there's another side of that, Larry. One more thing related to that. There's the thing that we a lot of times don't think about. There's God's perfect will, and there's God's permissive will. That makes a difference. Sometimes you're in God's permissive will, but you're not in the bullseye.
Right. Right. Gotcha.
Okay. And that can make a difference on the effectiveness you have or the time that you have. And there's sometimes when you do things in that, either one, we're human and we can make mistakes.
Uh-huh.
But the bottom line premise I agree with, that you're here as long as God has the time for you to be here. But the biggest thing I think more, and I believe you would totally agree with this from what you said, is what you do while you're here is the most important.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That is it. You get one shot too. You get
That's
one.
right.
No,
That's right.
this is not a practice. This is not rehearsal. This is real, so you got to go live. And that's why I believe that, like, majority of my clients are what we call baby boomers in the baby boomer.
Okay.
Because my system is designed to help teach people how to set up the foundation of an online business while helping them become more comfortable speaking about it.
Right.
Speaking is also a revenue stream, according to how things are set up in the world today, right? Just like what we're doing right now, I would be doing the same thing at an event, only with people. And do you speak as well?
Right. Yes.
Okay, so you do the same thing. Yeah, as a preacher, absolutely.
Yes.
You'll do it.
Right.
That's what you do. So a lot of people have a problem speaking. They're kind of nervous. They're
Right.
not really for them. So you can start them out small, and the more they're familiar with what they're doing, the easier it is to talk about it, right?
That's right. And there's another thing that I told you, I'm a numbers and percentage guy.
Uh-huh.
There's two things we'll just say quickly. Number one, everything nearly has an 80-20 rule.
Okay.
Only 20% of those you communicate with are ever going to do anything related to what you want them to do or participate with you.
Really?
So what you try to find those 20% that really have the desire. That's number one. The second thing is those that have a desire to do something and never get it accomplished usually stop at the 98% mark or less.
Wow.
It's just the last 2% that you burst through.
Oh my God.
They give up before they break the ice.
That is crazy. That is crazy.
Yeah.
I'm gonna use that for real. That is crazy. And I felt
Right.
that too. I felt that same thing because I for like years, like I've been in business for like 10 years, but for like the first 5 or 6 years, it just seemed like I was just repeating the process and wasn't getting anything done. And I see myself, going in another direction psychologically, but I knew I wasn't because I love what I do. That's why I believe that when you find your passion, once you find your passion, you make a connection like no other in life.
Right.
So when you make that connection and you identify that as your passion, live in that because your purpose will begin to show itself.
That's true.
So
that's true.
Go ahead.
One thing that we did not talk a lot, and I think it's all been providential, that we didn't talk a lot about the business. We just introduced it. What my opinion is we're supposed to have done what we just did. But my opinion is it would be good for you and I, just for you and I to have a conversation sometime, and maybe if you so desire another time to focus on how we could bless others that have a desire to participate and have the rewards that come with being a part of the grant program or Universal Achievers.
Yeah.
If that your agreement with that, I'd like to do that with you, conversation with you and I, and then maybe come back and share that.
Absolutely. I would be willing to do that without a doubt.
Okay. Great.
Okay. And as a matter of fact, we're coming up on what I call the bewitching hour. So with that being said, we're going to stop it right there. And I want to thank you again for showing up today and spending a little bit of your time with me. But before you leave, could you leave a contact a website or email address?
Yes. You can reach me. It's Mark Miller. And support at universalachievers.com.
Okay.
ACHIEVERS. Support at universalachievers.com. And I can email that to you as well.
Okay, fantastic. All right, well, thanks again, Mark, for showing up. And I always like to end the show by saying, my name is Larry James. My company is Speak with Larry, no spaces. And as always, share with someone else what I've shared with you. Thanks a lot, Mark.
Thank you.
All right.